So anyway, I was going to come back to this discussion. Hi all. We're going to talk about infrastructure. The Biden administration has proposed a $2 trillion expenditure on helping to rebuild our crumbling roads, bridges, highways, airports, and so believing that this will help stimulate and grow the economy. It's already being criticized as wasteful spending, that it's unnecessary, that less than 15% involves roads and bridges, but it's not being presented honestly, in my opinion, but not just my opinion. Those that study and argue about the role that infrastructure plays. And first of all, what is infrastructure? Besides roads and bridges, there are two types: social infrastructure that focuses on the individual, no, and here we have schools, affordable housing, and hospitals that are part of what is referred to at times social infrastructure. Here we're talking about the human element of it, the people that are directly benefited from rebuilding our infrastructure. And then there's economic infrastructure. And that is what I just mentioned: the roads and the bridges, communication systems, sewages, or sewage systems and water systems that provide clean water to drink, and of course removing the materials that people I don't want to get into that discussion, but the point is we need decent sewage systems to maintain the health and welfare of the communities, and then airports obviously need to be maintained because so many people travel on airplanes, and then mass transit, which is often ignored. So more often than not, infrastructure tends not to be controversial. Both Republicans and Democrats in the past have supported contributing and investing in infrastructure. They don't see it as wasteful spending, but they see it as undergirding our economic system, helping to build and grow our economy. And the foundation of any economic system is making sure that you have the necessary roads and bridges, etc., to transport product from point A to point B, or domestically as well as internationally. So there shouldn't be any argument about the infrastructure, but again, the nature of our politics is that Republicans being out of power currently when it comes to the federal government, the executive, and the legislature, they want to initiate those areas that they disagree with the Democrats, so that in the next 2-year cycle they'll win back the House and win back control of the Senate. And so the thing is that we need to rebuild our infrastructure. We need to look at our public schools and to see what facilities are safe, what water, drinking water is safe for the kids in those schools, and of course there's a more controversial area of mass transit. Should we start to invest in these high speed rails, which tend to be extraordinarily costly on the front end? That is an issue that I don't want to discuss in this presentation. I'll look further into it, but my inclination is that I tend to be very supportive of establishing these fast bullet train system in the United States that would get people to not have to fly, but and get them out of their vehicles to try to cut back on the carbon fuels that are being burnt on a daily basis. But regular mass transit, buses that currently exist, the trains that we have, they're not doing very well, and studies show that this can impact our economic system by as much as 8%. So we need to make sure that our highways and and our trains and our bus systems continue to function effectively. Now, the argument here is that getting rid of public transit actually cuts down on crime because there's a lot of crime that occurs in areas where you have public transit systems in existence in major cities. Well, that would mean that you could create requires a more money in securing these locations to try to minimize and or rid ourselves of the crime that exists in these places. But my point is that we need to invest in infrastructure. Now, the other issue that Republicans will throw out there is that this is going to just simply add to the already serious, what is it, 28 roughly, 20, the last I saw was roughly $28 trillion debt of the federal government that we're currently in. We're paying over $200 billion annually to service that debt, and that this is taking away from the future of our kids, and so by leaving them with this horrific bill to pay, and where's the money going to come from, et cetera, et cetera. No, well, again, if you look at the Republican administrations of the recent past, from beginning with Reagan especially, and then the two Bushes, the Bush Senior and Bush Junior, and Donald Trump, they argued the same point about cutting taxes for economic growth, and not worrying, but not worrying about the deficits that were generated. And then you had after the Republican administration left office, essentially the newly elected Democratic administration, whether it was Bill Clinton or whether it was Barack Obama and now it's Joe Biden, they inherited the mess that is left behind by the previous Republican leadership, and they signed a tax bill essentially that dramatically cut taxes for corporations and wealthy people, and just it dramatically increased the debt of the federal government, generating tremendous deficits annually, unfortunately. And most of these benefits went to the top 5% of the income ladder, something like 80%, depending upon which study one reads, but something like 80% went to the top 5%, and to corporations. They got their taxes cut from 35% roughly to 21%. And so Biden's proposal included in that $2 trillion infrastructure bill is increasing, as I pointed out, corporate taxes from 21% to 28%. And again, the Republicans are saying this is going to destroy our economy. It's going to slow down economic growth. It's going to hurt the very people that we're trying to help, those people that are unemployed or underemployed. So this is not good for our ability to compete in the international arena. 28%. And then the other point, of course, is that they say that by increasing these taxes, you're just going to transfer the cost of product that's produced by these corporations to consumers. So it's basically harmful to our society. It's not even going to be that beneficial. But I would argue, like most people that are, I would argue pragmatic and realistic, would say no. The difference between raising taxes on corporations that would contribute to the government and the ability of the government to pay its expenditures is that when consumers go to the store and there's a corporate product that's there on the shelves, they have a choice. They can either decide that they're going to buy that product or not. But when the corporations are not paying as much or their fair share to the government, and then the government is either going to have to borrow the money in the shortfall, and that's what they've been doing. Something like half of the budget last year was borrowed, and that's why we have this our servicing the debt is something like over $200 billion, which is a lost opportunity. That means that there's less money for healthcare, there's less money for education, there's less money for infrastructure, research and development. The list goes on of all the areas that the government is engaged in. And so you don't want to cut those programs because they directly benefit our society. And of course, it's critical. It's important that people have access to decent facilities for their education, that they have safe drinking water, that they have safe roads, etc., to drive on. I mean, the list goes on. When it comes to, and this is another criticism, they're saying that this is an overreach by the Democrats. You know that because the part of the proposal is to provide money for broadening communications. That is, the internet to areas that where services is not being provided by the private sector. So that's where the government steps in traditionally. So providing that high speed internet service to rural areas of the United States would contribute to economic growth. It would give access to rural communities to be able to get on the internet and find a variety of areas that benefit people, whether it's educating themselves through internet education, or whether it's to find out about jobs, etc. No, and with regards to improving our roads and our bridges, well, this might limit the number of people that are moving to urban centers, urban areas, where they can live in the suburbs and then just simply drive to Boston or to New York or to Los Angeles or to whatever major city one wants to identify. And so infrastructure is critical. It's in our best interests, and it's going to spur on economic growth. And I don't buy into this so-called supply side economics theory that says just simply cutting taxes for the wealthy and for corporations is going to benefit our economy overall. That it's not been the case. It's not been proven. The standard of living, the quality of life for Americans has been dropping since they've implemented these kinds of policies aggressively. Okay, well, I'll leave it there until our next episode, and then we'll get into some other subject that I think it's critical that's being considered in the public discourse in the public arena. You guys have a wonderful day. It was nice talking to you. Bye bye.